The economic history of the harbor dates back to essentially the European settlement. It's a great harbor from the outside, but it's tricky on the inside. Main reason why New Haven actually never developed into a much larger metropolitan area, because this harbor does not allow for large amounts of traffic. And still to this day, there's a certain amount of tonnage that can come and go.
So as the rule of thumb, now you can see here's a piece of commercial traffic coming out at us right now. I have to pay attention to him. He has the right of way because he has tonnage. He's bigger, heavier, and it's harder for him to stop.
This particular area is fairly flat. From the sea to the northern border is maybe 69 feet. There are some very large hills called East Rock and West Rock, which are remnants of the great rift split that happened when North America separated from Africa.
It's an amazingly variable environment with the largest temperature swing of any place in the United States, the most number of types of trees of anywhere in the United States, and went through the most dramatic change from being fully forested in 1600 to being 90% deforested at around 1900.
It's really river delta property. There's a lot of hardwood trees, some conifers, in the Quinnipiac marshlands, a lot of marshlands.
Town fathers, if you will, the city heavy hitter economic interests have been pushing for some time for a deeper channel, have been pushing for breakwaters. One in particular was a man named Charles Hervey Townsend, who his family is prominent in New Haven history and had served earlier as a well-renowned sea captain. Very much involved with the development of the harbor. The Townsend family manor, Raynham, oversees the harbor and actually was at that point, it's marked on the map as one of the navigational viewpoints that you can see and define. Like, oh, there's the cupola up there, there's Raynham.
Very nicely. Face them. We just had it. My husband's great-great-great-grandfather was buried there, Jeremiah Townsend. They came over from England in about 1640 and went to Boston. They were going to stay there, but then they had heard about this wonderful port called Quinnipiac after the Indians, and they came down here and they settled instead. And they didn't come here until about 1798 to this avenue. Townsend Avenue was named after our family. Before then, no house was here. It was a road to the cove, Morris Cove, or the lighthouse. The lighthouse is still there. And it was paved with oyster shells because they had a big oyster in the harbor. There were oyster pots put out.
Instead of mud, they started using crushed shells as not a pavement, but before the era of crushed stone.
The harbor and the rivers that feed the harbor created a wonderful habitat for oysters. This was due to the water quality, the temperature, the salinity.
The people who lived along the shoreline here, the Quinnipiac, the Pequots, the Paugussett, traditionally made these beads out of quahog and whelk shells, which were called wampum. And they would take these blue and purplish and white beads and they would string them together into what we would call belts or breastplates, which based upon the pattern would identify a person by their lineage, by who they are, and their standing, which tribe, which group they're from, etc. The people who lived as far away as the Great Lakes wanted these beads that were only available from the shells of Long Island Sound. So the Pequot very early on figured out if we could control the production of wampum beads, we would then be able to control the trade with the Dutch. So by the early 1620s, the Dutch had worked out a deal.